Figuring Out Colors with Penelope Yakey.
Right. Hello all, and thank you for joining. This is something my sister and I often talked about, was color theory. We sort of grew up with it because our parents let us have fun with various arts and crafts, and realized that it's something that has to be picked up a lot more for other people. So I decided to try and go over it for a lot of other people, especially when it comes to various arts and crafts and how to have fun picking out colors, whether you're doing a quilt or crochet or knitting or whatever. Everything we make has colors in it. So, and a lot of it just how to have fun with them and how to make sense of how certain sets go together. So I am going to get a screen here for sharing. I've learned this a little bit better. All right, everyone. I'm going to start out here with, you've probably seen a million different versions of this in all sorts of places. It's your basic color wheel. I'm just going to go over some of the basic terminology really quick here on stuff. You have your primary colors, which you probably recall from school, with red and yellow and blue. And it quickly goes on to your secondaries, where you mix them and you get your orange, green, and purple. And then your, I can always say it right, tertiary colors, where you start mixing them even further. Now, other quick little terms that are used: hue is your actual color, and tone is when you start either getting it with lighter or you make it darker, your tint and shade. Your same color, just lighter, darker versions of it going around. I said these are some of just the technical terminology for us to go over really quick on things. Another thing people often talk about is warm and cool colors. Your cooler colors generally tend to be your purple, blues, and greens, and warmer colors, your reds, oranges, and yellows. And basically, it's how a lot of people, the colors make them feel. You want to be energetic, bright, and bouncy. You think of fire colors, of warm colors, your reds, your oranges, your yellows, the ones that give you more of a buzz to get something done. And this is something to think about in your crafts. You want to make a sweater that has a bunch of pop and fizz, sorry, you're probably going to look at your warmer colors to get going. You want a blanket for your kid's bed to keep them, chill them out for sleep. You're going to look at the cooler colors, which are your more relaxing tones, your blues, your greens, your purples. All right. Now, the fun part comes in art when you start picking out these colors and putting them together in a project. Now, one of the quick and easy color combinations people talk about is your complementary colors. And for that, you're going for colors that are going to be directly across from each other. One common color set we see of this is red and green. I didn't pick Christmas, but Christmas is one example of two complementary colors put together. I like this one here because it's not Christmas, but they are usually strong colors and they give a lot of contrast. Now you need to usually balance it out, whether one of them is stronger than the other and the other one is your accenting tone for it, or equal amounts is going to give you something that's going to be very strong and vibrant, very attracting attention, whether it's your red and green, or think of other ones, your purple and yellow, or blue and orange. It's, in some ways, if you get them really strong, to me, the border between the two colors almost vibrates because there's that much contrast between the two. There's ways of balancing out to tone down the energy but still keep that pop, and we'll discuss that a little bit more later. All right, your next bit of color sets are ones we've probably seen a lot more, and it is your analogous colors. And it's colors that are going to be next to each other on your wheel. Here we have some apricots, and you're getting your red, which is pink, and peach colors, and yellows and oranges. And it's a set of colors all together. We see this color scheme in, think of an ocean scene that's going to be blues and greens. A floral scene where you have green but then yellow and blue with it. Any sort of range in colors next to each other. They will definitely match with each other. You get a bit of contrast. It had some interest. And they tend to be very easy to put together on this. Next bit of color is going to, color set is going to have a good amount of contrast with each other. Triadic, and these are going to be 3 colors set exactly across from each other. You have green, purple, orange here. These are all your secondary colors. And these are also going to give you that same sort of pop as your complementary colors. It's very dynamic, energetic. One way to help with the contrast is by keeping one color sort of more primary, more dominant, and the other support. If you noticed in this one here, you have purple. Seems to me, it looks like the vast majority of the colors with little accents of the orange and green in there. This is another sort of color set where you'll want to figure out a balance as well. Depends how much pop and fizz you want. I mean, you could go for something that's going to be pop you in the face type contrast with each other, or you can look at ways to tone them down so it's a little bit more of a gentler vibe on things. Again, we'll discuss that in a little bit. One of my favorite sets of colors is called split complementary. Again, it's a triangle, but instead of all of them being equal from each other, you have 2 colors that are much closer to each other, and then the third one is a cross. This one here, you can see we have like the blues and greens, and then you have the bright oranges. Now there's a lot more little versions of the colors, but those are your main primary ones there, where you have the 2 colors very close to each other, and then that other one that brings you a lot of pop. This is one of my favorite sort of color combinations to do, the split complementary, because it's easy to have that same sort of relaxing vibe. You have the analogous colors together, but then you have that little bit of accent of pop from a color across from them. Think of autumn leaves against a blue sky. You have the pretty flame colors of orange and yellow and red even, and you go across and you have that blue pop going across. Okay. Another sort of color scheme that you'll see often, it's one that's easy to do, and especially if you have a favorite color, is monochromatic. You'll have just a single color and then light versions and dark versions of it. This can be relaxing even with a bright, warm color. And it's fun sometimes to pair up how much different variations you want in the lighter and darker versions of it. You can get some where the shades are all right next to each other, or you can get some where it's extreme versions, or some of each. All right, the next couple ones are really complicated, and it was harder to find picture examples of them, so I just stuck with this. What they called it, trad. No, I'm not saying it right. Trad. You're going with a set of 4 colors. Yes, Megan, you can laugh at me for this one. You're going with a set of 4 colors across from each other or closer to each other. You notice here you can do it where it's like the triadic one, where they're all opposite, equally strength from each other. It's going to give you a lot of energetic color. That can be very strong in how you want to pull it off. Or there's ways where you can tone this down, and we'll discuss some of those in a few moments. Or you can do it where you have 2 sets of colors that are much closer to each other. So you have 2 pairs and then one's going across from them. And this one, much like the split complementary, is going to give you a little bit of balance with the 2 sets of colors working with each other, and then something to help accent them or help make them pop against each other. All right. Then another one which I didn't put on here, but you have achromatic color combinations, and that's basically your black, white, and grays. Monochromatic, but it's just very neutral colors that can work with just about anything. And neutral colors actually help us for when we're getting into the next section here on how to make various color schemes work. Now, one way when you have complementary colors and you want some of that contrast, but you want to tone down the energy a little bit, is to fiddle with the tone a bit. One thing I really liked about this crochet block I found online is you're looking at, well, red, so to speak, technically here with the pink, and green, which are complementary colors directly across from each other. They make each other pop. But we've toned it down here by doing this little darker to lighter shade bit. Putting in the lighter colors and the bit of white helps tone down some of the energy without compromising on it. Makes it a little bit more relaxing, but keeping that contrast with them. And that is something I have found helps with a lot of color scheme combinations. You go and it's like, okay, those autumn leaves we're going to make the leaves, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, all bright and vibrant. And the blue that contrasts them, we're going to put in a bit of clouds. We're going to tone it down, so there'll still be the little pops of blue that helps make the accent against those autumn leaves. But we're toning down that straight up competition between the colors. I've seen this also where we're using darker colors in it as well. Let's go here. This one here is Analogous Colors, blues and purples, and they've fiddled with it by the different shades of blue, lighter ones, mediums, and darkers. It gives you a lot more variant without necessarily adding a lot more colors in it, and helps, like I said, balance out some of the energy with keeping your silk colors and stuff in there. Analogous doesn't necessarily have a lot of competing contrasts with each other, but you can still get a lot more variant in it and a lot more energy in it by mixing in different shades and tones and tints of these same colors and going into it. Now, something else that's done with when you have really bright contrasts in there would be mixing in some neutrals. This one here we have, if I can pull up here, looks like another split complementary color scheme here with your oranges, reds, and yellows, and then you have the green that's across from like the orange and the red in there, doing that contrast. And on its own, those 4 colors would be very punchy, not meaning it in a bad way, but it's a strong, bright contrast with them. But here we have the white that sort of mellows that out. To me, it's sort of like a spicy dish, but then you are mixing in like some sour cream or some yogurt to help tone down the curry or the spice of the chili or something like that. You're still keeping that spice in there. You're just giving a little bit of mellowing it out a little bit. it sort of just depends on what effect you're going for. Yeah, I mean, if you want to have that full punch of energy, go for it. It's not wrong. It's different. It's how you want to do things. There's no wrong or right way for colors aside from what makes you happy, or if you're making something for somebody, what makes them happy. I made, I helped do, it was a crochet block exchange where we all made stuff in other colors for people. So you put them together and you got your own Afghan. And somebody picked, she called the color scheme she wanted spicy chocolate. And it was browns with a lot of warm oranges and reds in it. And not my personal color pick. It looked gorgeous, but it's, like I said, the colors, whatever makes you happy or whoever you're making it happy. But yeah, like I said, this is one way of helping to tone down some of those colors. Another one, found this image. I really like this. I think this is a good example of some of those 4 colors. You have the orange and red going across from your blues and greens. And those would all be some very strong contrasting colors with each other. And it's balanced out by the majority of this blanket having a lot of the gray in it. The neutral colors help play along with everybody. And they are a way of helping to balance down some of that energy. If you want it a little bit, the colors to be a little bit more mellow, it's a way of toning some of that down. Let's see, that's all the pictures I have for some of the examples. I'd like to see if anyone has examples of pictures of color schemes and stuff that they like, that they wanted to see about people talking about, trying to figure out. And hello to people who joined in from us.
I don't know if this is on topic or not, but it's something that I'm working on currently. I took a pattern that was one color and I wanted to do it in one color, but I didn't want it all to look the same. So I did different thread thicknesses. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Okay.
So
that
no. So then instead of being all solid dark blue, I tried to change the color a little bit, mellow it out, as you say, by using 1 strand in the caps, 2 strands in the leaves, and 3 strands elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's looking at the different tones and shades for like a monochromatic. And that's definitely lighter and darker to get more interest going into it. Very nice. Very nice. I think Lily Ellison had something she was going to be holding up as well. You were holding up a picture?
Yeah, I somehow lost the thing.
Oh, that's all right.
Let me see if I can get. I guess I have to go in again.
You're here with us right now. I don't know.
I know, but I don't have the screen.
Oh.
Oh, oops, Ellen. Yeah, that's my project. Huh.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. I'm seeing definitely greens on the border, and you got some lovely blues in there, and it looks like an orange tannish for the house, and then
Right.
yellow on the light. So that to me looks like a split complementary with the orange and the yellow, and then the blue. Looks like the blue and the orangish or tannish. It's hard to tell a little bit, but are the main sort of colors with the yellow sort of as an accent across from it. I like that. That's nice.
It's a tile from Catalina.
Oh, I love the tiles on Catalina.
Yeah.
Those are so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something you were thinking about trying to do the colors or something similar for a project or something?
Well, I love the blues,
Mm-hmm.
and I do a lot of knitting, and I do spinning. So I'm just trying to think of a different way of getting more color.
Yeah. I say the blue with the touches of the orange and the yellow in there would help make it really pop.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, Blissot. I'm not know if I don't know if I'm saying his
So,
name. Blissot. Okay.
Blisso. But yeah, and I didn't think about it until you was talking about the secondary colors.
Yeah.
But, I'm just fooling around with this pattern, and when you were talking, I also realized I was using mostly secondary colors, purple, green, and orange, and then
Yeah.
I kind of accented with a really dark red.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
was
that's
just like,
definitely a triadic color combination there. And like I said, they're all, being across from each other, they all make each other pop in a way.
yeah.
That's very nice.
And also something, I also I have a degree in art, but I remember coming across a picture where, or something proportion where red and green in equal area amounts are like balance each other out. However, blue and orange, I think it was like 3 parts blue to 5 parts orange. And then for yellow and purple, it's like 9 parts yellow to 1 part purple will balance each other out. But that was another kind of relationship that I remember coming across in one color theory book, which talked about those things, is that the area of the colors also make a statement on how much, on whether or not they balance each other out.
That's a good example of the colors right there on stuff. All right, looking to see anyone else have some other colors and stuff. Okay, anyone?
Unmute.
Okay.
It just wasn't paying attention to me. I've got a picture that I would show if I could share my screen, but I can't share my screen, so I guess I can't. But it's basically a piece based on, maybe I can, I'll do it. I'll cheat. I'll use
I set it so you can share your screen now.
oh, I can? Okay.
Yeah.
If you can, is it letting
I was
you?
going to cheat by going to there it is.
Ooh.
There. Now that's based on a manuscript.
Mhm.
It's the Lindisfarne Gospels.
Oh.
So I used their color schemes, and while it's basically 3 primary colors, they certainly don't have all the same weight.
Mhm.
And the red is darker and the blue is lighter, and the yellow, instead of being really yellow, it's really kind of orangey yellow.
I would almost, at least on my screen, I almost would have called it yellow, or orange. So I was thinking, okay, it looks like a split complementary with the red being sort of, the primary color and all of that, and then supported with the orange and the blue.
But I mean, here I was just taking the colors from the manuscript and trying to use someone else's color sense.
Sometimes that's a challenge with working with colors that aren't necessarily ones you are your favorite or your pick.
Right. But I just thought I'd show that as a, okay, it's blue, red, and yellow, but it doesn't scream at you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, especially that red looks like a slightly darker than just a straight up red as well too.
Yeah, yeah. They're all shades
Mhm.
or tones.
Yeah, that's, yeah, like I said, you can go straight up with the colors and have something that almost vibrates. And if that's what you want, go for it. But there's different little variants you can do to make something more relaxing, a little mellowed out. Like I said, it's very similar to adding like yogurt or sour cream to curry or chili. It's like you still get the spice, it's just not punch you in the face.
Right.
Anyone else have some color examples? Anne?
I do. I'm going to share my screen also. And
Okay.
this is, I just take pictures from nature.
That's
So this one this is from a botanical garden in Hawaii,
Ooh.
but I took this picture and I always loved the purple would be a little more purple. I don't know if it's this, my camera or what, but the play of dark and light in the two colors seems to make them less, green and purple would sort of clash or
Okay.
not clash. It would,
I don't think we got the hourglass. It said it couldn't be delivered because the person indicated they no longer want responses on it.
Debbie,
It was
I'm
sent.
muting
Hi,
you.
Lynette.
Sorry, I just muted her. So
Okay.
anyway, I just love this, and
Sorry.
what I can do with spinning, because I spin and I can dye my own yarn, is I can actually blend the darker and lighter tones, either in this the yarn, different yarns or in the same yarn. So that's my one that I love.
And you almost have a slight bit of yellowish on some of the leaves there. Not like yellow, but a bit like green yellow, which yellow is complementary to purple. So you have a slight bit of that little bit of zing, but it's toned down.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really nice.
Thank you. All right.
I have a question, if I can. I don't know if anyone here has the answer. When I look at stuff in the fabric store or, anywhere, you see colors that clash with each other. I found out the hard way that greens can clash with each other. Here's my question. When I look at colors in nature, I don't see any of those clashes. They all seem to go. What is it about that?
I don't know. I know sometimes you'll look at a sunset and it'll be like neon pinks and golds and yellows and oranges, and it's gorgeous. And you're like thinking, oh gosh, I couldn't put those sort of colors together on a piece of fabric. It would look horrible. I'm guessing maybe there is a way that in nature sometimes that they balance each other out, and that we as humans have not quite figured out how to get that balanced out. I don't know. A lot of times you'll see colors in nature that look so wonderful and perfect, and it's trying to recreate them. It's that much harder to do. There are some artists out there who can manage it, so maybe they have figured out that perfect little balance. And some of it's experimenting, which is something you should never be afraid to do. It's like, okay, so you put some colors together, you're working on something and it doesn't quite end up what you thought it would look like. It doesn't quite work. That's okay. I remember reading somewhere where they say a guy will spend hundreds of dollars on equipment and materials to make something that fails because he's having fun. Whereas a woman is afraid to spend a few dollars on some extra ingredients at the grocery store to try making a new dish. Where we tend to be a lot more cautious when it comes to things sometimes. And you need to know that it's okay to try something, a color combination, and just not have it work what you want to be. It's okay to attempt and sort of fail. The ways of testing things out that beforehand, you can always try and, well, again, photos and pictures. You can print them out or have print out and you cut and put some of them together to see how one group of color combinations works right next to another. Something I do with trying to figure out quilting and crochet patterns for blankets is I'll often get some colored pencils and sketch out the patterns, and you can do a couple whole pages of, okay, how does this set of colors look with this one? And okay, this one works, but I need to try it with a little less of this color maybe. That's a way of you can test them out without doing them, but you still shouldn't be afraid of trying them out.
I have some thoughts on the scientific area is that evolutionary, the colors, the pigments are pretty much, the ones that tend to mix with each other. And so they're just a difference in proportion of the number of pigments, especially in plant pigments. And also in natural light, and a lot of dyes are synthetics that are made, that are chemicals that are not naturally forming in nature. So I think that might have something to do with the, specifically some of the greens. And also, thing I always complain about Joann's is that they, a lot of their stores have the most awful light in it. And they use that mercury lights, like where I used to go, they used to have all these mercury lights were like the god awful, most awful lights you could see things in. And I've always thought that they could always increase their sales if they switched over to the full spectrum of sunlight.
Yeah, I recall getting some fabric with my mom for some clothing, and we basically took them over to the windows to look at them in natural light. And yeah, that brought up a point. When I was looking up the terminology for this class, one website I came across that had some of the good terminology, but they were talking about color theory for web design, and something they brought up was color when mixed with lights, i.e. your computer screen, is different than color mixed by chemicals like paints or crayons. If we all remember kindergarten, mixing your red and yellow paint to get orange and whatnot, and then of course you mix them all together and you got brown. Whereas if you're dealing with lights on your computer screen, it's the red, blue, green, and you mix the red and green together and you get yellow, and it doesn't work with paints. So mixing light compared to mixing pigments could be another reason why you can look at a gorgeous sunset and not be able to get those exact colors and get them to mix well enough on a piece of fabric. I mean, we try, and eventually we'll get to it. There are artists out there who've done wonderful things, but that could be one reason why sometimes it doesn't quite always work the way you want it.
So another issue is the value of the color. And a trick for figuring that out is if you take a picture of it and then switch the picture to grayscale, if all of the different colors wind up being the same shade of gray, your colors are going to match, even if they're opposites on the color wheel or next to each other or whatever. So long as they turn the same shade of gray when it's in a grayscale, they will not clash.
That's high school art class. We had to do monochromatic painting. So yeah, it was taking a picture and getting it black and white copied. And there were quite a few kids who, when they got their black and white copy back, had to go and find another photo because they were all exactly the same gray across the board on a lot of things. Okay.
I was going to say, whenever I do getting ready to make new garb or new clothing, I will have croquis and use colored pencils. I have the design already that I want, but then I'll use colored pencils and do different ones so I can get kind of the look at what the colors are going to look like together. Because some of the clothes we have are mini layered, so you want to see how those layers are going to go together, and I find that very helpful too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know with some colors, I love autumn colors. I can't wear them because they're the warmer colors. And so for something in the STA, my Barony does red and gold or yellow for their stuff. I can't wear that. But I've looked at certain fabrics and it's like, okay, if I can get a purple toned burgundy, take that red and move it over to red purple. And yellow, it's there's not much you can do with that, but I found a more goldenrod that's toned down with a bit more brown and use a smaller amount of that. It's like, okay, I can pull off a red and yellow dress that's not straight up red and yellow, again fiddling with the slight color and whatnot on those. But yeah, it's fun. I like crocheting and doing blankets and stuff like that. So it's always fun to pull out the yarns at the store and figure out the color scheme. And it's like, okay, we're going to do this. And sometimes even just changing the neutral slightly. There was a blanket I was working on for a friend, and it's monochromatic, many shades of blue, dark, 2 mediums, a light, and then it was supposed to have straight up white. And when we actually put it together, even though we knew it was supposed to be monochromatic, it looked washed out. We changed out that white for a cream, and that faint bit of warmth yellow in there helped make the blues actually pop a bit more. And if you think about it, they're not exact complementary colors. Yellow is more complementary to purple and orange for blue, but that faint bit of being separate helped make that slight little bit more pop. So yeah, I always love putting colors together and seeing how things work on things. Like I said, the split complementary, it's like, okay, we have a range of colors that sort of go together, and here's that accent that helps make the rest of it zing. So I'm hoping that people got some ideas. I never really learned color theory formally. I just had lots of fun with arts and crafts as a kid growing up. So you sort of see, okay, these colors work really well together. These don't. And it was interesting to look and see how, oh, here's the actual technical terms for this stuff that I sort of already knew, which helped me learn a little bit more on it right now. And I hope that helped give people some ideas on how to put colors together, how to have fun putting them together. Remember, there's no right or wrong way. You find a photo that has brilliant colors, and you can actually start looking at it going, okay, this autumn picture I've always liked pops because it's these warm colors with that blue that accents and brings them out. Or just, you can start looking at color combinations that you've liked and realize what sort of makes them work for you, and then recreate others on your own too. So any other questions or comments on things here?
I would just say sometimes it's just the proportions too.
Mhm.
I had I make yarn, and I had some, it was a green and a brown and yellow. It was something that, again, I think I took a picture of a flower and took the colors, but it was just ugly. I don't know, kind of, I spun it and I was like, that looks like puke. And then I tried plying it with a really pretty like fawn alpaca, and all of a sudden it was just right, because it had been too much. And it needed just like you said, it needed the sour cream. That's my metaphor now, from now on. Like, it needed the sour cream. It needed something that wasn't going to clash with either colors, but was going to soften it so it wasn't so much. And I think if anybody's seen that Goofy show Bridgerton, where they do all these fabulous period costumes, but there's this one family and everything they wear is loud and for humorous effect. And you're like, there's nothing wrong with any of these colors except it's all too much. And it's funny. They're funny with it.
They need some stuff to tone them down a little.
Tone them down. Yes, exactly.
One thing though I've noticed, we're looking at neutral colors for helping to tone others down. Brown is one of those where sometimes it's neutral, sometimes it's not. You can get a reddish brown, and that's going to be warmer. And you can get a brown that's very close to more like has more. Brown is all colors, but it tends to be towards red or green. Those are the ones you basically mix to get your brown as a kid. And yeah, you get the reddish more one, and you get ones that are a bit more on the greenish side. which, oh God, okay, now it's making brown sound horrible, but you can definitely use those when you're wanting either to go with or to have a faint little bit of contrast, or you work to get a really more down the middle line. So it is a lot more neutral, especially with tans. Tan and taupe are nice neutral colors you can use to help tone things down. It's, like I said, brown is a slightly trickier neutral color, sometimes neutral, sometimes color to work with, but it can work. Just some of it's, like I said, have fun with it and realize there's no wrong color set. It's what do you want? What are you trying to achieve? And if you're making it for somebody, what do they want? So
Yeah, browns and grays, they I actually look at them as yellows and blues and reds. And grays also have brown. When I was doing acrylic painting, I realized that they had the pinks and blues and yellows mixed into them, depending on what you what you were working with.
yeah.
I wanted to make a comment on the color, the light that you were talking about earlier. I have, my husband laughs at me because I have very specific light bulbs that I like in our can lights in the kitchen, because I call them the sparkle lights. Like when you go to a restaurant, you sit down and your jewelry really sparkles, or anything that has a glitter on it really shines. It kind of has a pink tone to it. And so it makes everything glisten and look more appetizing. And I enjoy having that as opposed to the more cooler tones in the kitchen that can kind of make things look. So sometimes if I have something that I'm working on, I like to take it into the either outside or into that different light and see what it's going to look like, because it really does look different depending on what light you're looking at it on. So you might think about the type of light that you have that you're working with. I have a ring light that I have that I work with, and it has the option for different colors on it too. So you can kind of.
Yeah, natural lights, or they make those full spectrum lights. Those can sometimes, depends on your budget, those can run, price wise. Someone said that's what Joanne's coupons were for. But yeah, it's thankfully most of us all have access though to a window and the sun is free. So yeah, that's one thing, especially like I said, it's lights versus the chemicals. And you're basically wanting your regular sunlight to help look at colors, because you get a pink tone, or those mercury lamps like Joanne's has in their thing, or any of those. Figure out, okay, sometimes, like I said, you'll know which ones in your house are good for looking at something and which ones aren't.
I've been making
Now they got ones you can program to whatever light color you want.
Yeah, I've been making an effort to change over the lights in my house to something more sunlight. So it's much easier, especially if I want to take a photograph of something. I don't have to like set up a photo booth for it. It's just now my kitchen light has daylight light from it, and it makes it easier to see both colors when I'm working in the kitchen, and also to photograph something I'm taking a photo of.
Something I've noticed when trying to look just at straight colors in a photo to sort of judge them is try and step back from it, sort of squint a bit. You're not looking for the details. You're looking to see which of these colors, if I have my eyes squinted, sort of is the one that I see the most in an image. That's a trick I've done for looking at things, especially it's like, okay, I really like how this picture works. You sort of learn how to break them down a bit. And one thing I do, just sort of squint, it's like when I squint and I'm losing the actual details and the lines, what color am I sort of seeing the most in this image? It's like, okay, and if I like how that image works, I need to have more purple in this, and then a touch of green, and then a couple little pieces of orange, rather than thinking, okay, equal amounts of all of them. So, oh gosh, if I hear it needs sour cream later on art forums, I'm just going to start laughing. But I think we've all done cooking, and it's like, okay, chili, I'm adding sour cream, or curry, we're adding the yogurt to it. It works. It works. keep the color and the spices, but you make it not hit you in the face so much. Okay, any other questions on things here or comments, ideas? Well, I hope people here had fun and hopefully learned something. If anything, just don't be afraid to experiment with the colors. There's no wrong way of putting them together. Have fun just doing them. And you know what, if you put some of them together and it doesn't quite work, either figure out another one or just go, okay, it's a learning experience. I learned something and I'm going to do better next time. So, all right. Well, everyone, thank you for coming. And I hope you have a nice rest of the day and last day of February.
Thank you very much. These were 2 wonderful classes. Really just fantastic. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,